You ever wonder why you feel so alone? Why every time you try to build a connection, it falls apart? Why your energy doesn't seem to click with most people? Why you're always the one giving, listening, supporting, understanding, but no one ever really shows up for you the same way? This isn't just bad luck. This isn't just you being too sensitive. This is spiritual. Chosen one. You don't have many friends because you weren't sent here to fit in. You were sent here to awaken, to transform, to shift the atmosphere when you walk into a room. And people feel that, even if they don't say it. Your soul has weight. Your words cut deeper. Your silence echoes louder. And that kind of presence, it can't just blend in. It shakes people. They don't know how to handle someone who sees straight through them. They don't know how to stay close to someone who carries light that exposes their darkness. You were never meant to be part of the crowd. That's why the crowd doesn't stick around. You've probably had people enter your life with promises of loyalty, and they disappeared the moment your light started to rise. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual alignment. When you walk in truth, anything fake gets burned away. Your energy naturally filters people out. That's why chosen ones walk alone. Not because they're bitter, not because they don't love, but because their path is sacred. And not everyone is qualified to walk beside it. You see, most people want surface friendships. Talk about the weather, complain about life, gossip about others. But you crave depth. You crave meaning. You want to talk about purpose, healing, growth, destiny. And the moment you open your mouth like that, people go silent because they don't operate on that frequency. They want comfort. You want truth. They want entertainment. You want elevation. They want to numb the pain. You want to heal it. That's the disconnect. You don't lose friends. You outgrow illusions. You start to notice who only liked you when you were dimming your light, who only stayed around when you were broken, needy, unsure. But the moment you started healing, walking in purpose, setting boundaries, they labeled you different. They were right. You are different. Chosen ones are wired differently. You feel everything deeply. You see through masks. You pick up energy before words are even spoken. That's why being around too many people drains you. That's why small talk feels painful. That's why you'd rather sit in silence than fake a smile around the wrong company. People often misread you. They think you're antisocial, arrogant, mysterious. But what they don't understand is, you're guarded, not because you don't want love, but because you've experienced too much betrayal to let just anyone in now. You've been there before, gave your heart to someone who didn't respect it, opened up to someone who weaponized your vulnerability, trusted someone who wasn't ready for your truth. And now, your soul builds walls no one sees. But here's the twist. That loneliness, that isolation, it's not a punishment. It's a preparation. You're being hidden, protected, elevated, because the mission on your life is too big for noisy rooms and half-hearted friends. Your solitude is not empty. It's sacred space for transformation. The reason you feel so disconnected from others is because you're being connected to something higher. You're being tuned into a divine frequency where very few can follow. You're walking through life like a silent signal. You're calling out to your soul tribe. But until they arrive, you're walking alone on purpose. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it gets heavy. But it's also the reason why your gifts are getting sharper, your discernment clearer, your vision stronger. Because when no one is around to distract you, you start to hear God clearer. That's the gift of isolation. And while it may feel like rejection, it's actually redirection. God removes people from your life not to hurt you, but to protect what He placed in you. Because if you're around the wrong people, they'll drain your anointing before you even know how powerful it is. They'll talk you out of your purpose before you take your first real step. So the silence you feel, the long nights with no one to call, the celebrations with no one to share them with, they're part of your training. Because the chosen walk a narrow path, and narrow paths don't come with crowds. You were never meant to be popular. You were meant to be impactful. Your voice will reach nations, but your circle will stay small. Because when God chooses you, He makes sure your attachments don't outweigh your assignment. And deep down, you've always known this. You've always felt different, always asked deeper questions, always sensed things before they happened, always craved realness in a world obsessed with masks. And maybe you tried to fight it, tried to fit in, dull your shine, shrink your truth, laugh at jokes that didn't feel right, stay friends with people who drained your spirit. But that didn't work, did it? Because your soul doesn't tolerate fake for too long. It rebels. It aches. It whispers, "This isn't you." And eventually, you listened. You started pulling away, ghosting parties, ignoring small talk, finding peace in your own presence, because loneliness stopped being something you feared and became something you honored. You started to realize that the pain of loneliness is still better than the emptiness of shallow friendships. And that was the beginning of your awakening. Because when you finally stop forcing connections, the real ones begin to find you. When you stop chasing people, God starts sending alignment, but not before He strips everything fake away, not before He isolates you, protects you, sharpens you in silence. Chosen one, your lack of friendships isn't failure, it's evidence. Evidence that you're not just walking any path, you're walking the set-apart one. This world teaches you to measure your worth by how many people like you, follow you, text you, invite you. But the kingdom you come from, it measures by something different. Obedience, character, discernment, depth. And your depth, it makes the shallow nervous. You feel too much, you see too far, you speak too raw. You carry too much truth in a world built on pretending. That's why people fall off. They were never rejecting you. They were rejecting what you carried. Because when you're truly chosen, your presence becomes a mirror, and people either confront their reflection or they run from it. Most choose to run, but don't chase them. Let them go. Because what's meant for your soul won't fear your power. You weren't created to be surrounded by crowds. You were created to walk with clarity, with depth, with purpose. And when that purpose becomes louder than your need for company, that's when your real circle begins to form. It won't be big. It won't be loud, but it will be sacred. You'll attract people who speak your language without words, souls who recognize your frequency instantly, people who don't drain you, they water you, who don't compete, they celebrate, who don't pretend, they show up fully, scars and all. And until that tribe shows up, solitude will be your sanctuary. Your alone time will become holy. Your silence will speak volumes. You'll learn to enjoy your own company, to laugh by yourself, cry without shame, sit in stillness, and actually hear what your soul has been trying to say for years. You'll become your own best friend, and that's where your power multiplies. Because when you no longer need external validation, you become unshakable. No one can guilt you for leaving fake friendships. No one can manipulate you with silence. No one can distract you from your calling with empty words. You become rooted in something deeper, anchored in truth, free from the games. And suddenly, you stop settling. You stop explaining your spirit to people committed to misunderstanding it. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces you've already outgrown. You stop overextending just to prove you're enough. You know who you are now. You're chosen. And being chosen means you walk through many doors alone, not because you're unwanted, but because you're reserved. You're not for everyone, and that's okay. You're not meant to be understood by people who haven't healed. You're not meant to be loved by people still at war with themselves. You're not meant to be celebrated by those threatened by your peace. The absence of friendship in your life is not an absence of love. It's a clearing of space, a spiritual detox, a sacred separation from noise, from distraction, from betrayal dressed as loyalty. because your path needs clarity. And clarity comes through silence. Chosen one. The real ones are coming. The aligned ones. The ones who don't question your energy because they've met it before, in themselves. The ones who can sit with your silence and still feel safe. The ones who don't need your light to be dim for theirs to shine. They're being prepared, just like you are. And when they come, it'll feel like exhale, like peace, like finally. Until then, don't let the world convince you that loneliness equals brokenness. Your solitude isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're being called higher. And the higher you go, the fewer people can breathe at your altitude. So breathe deep, stand tall, walk alone if you have to. But never forget, you're not alone because you're unworthy. You're alone because your energy is rare.